My name is Annel Oosthuysen, and this is my colleague Hanle Posthumus, and we're from the Centre of Teaching and Learning at the University of the Free State, and we're part of the SASSI team. Great. So due to time constraints, I'm just quickly going to give you an overview of the Student Engagement Project. I'm sure most of you, 99% of you know about the Student Engagement Project. And then I'm going to explain how this directly links to capacity building workshops. Firstly, I'm going to show you the reasons why we developed the data tool version 1, the functionality, and then the feedback that we received from data tool 1, and then the reasons why we developed data tool version 2, and also some feedback. Then finally, I'm going to give you some summary of our findings and then present the way forward. So as you might know, on an institutional level, we have 3 surveys. The Beginning University Survey of Student Engagement, the BUSI, is focused at first-time entering students, and it asks students about their high school experiences and their university expectations. Then secondly, we have the South African Survey of Student Engagement, the SASSI, and that asks first-year students and senior students about their experiences with effective educational behaviors. Then the Lecturer Survey of Student Engagement asks lecturers how important they think these effective educational behaviors are for their students. And then we compare the SASSI and the LESI in the end. On a modular level, we have the Classroom Survey of Student Engagement, and then this also works as a way to measure levels of student engagement in the classroom, and then the lecturer can see where they are either missing their students or where the students are missing the lecturer. Okay, so the student engagement timeline at the beginning of the year, we have the BUSI survey in February. Then in the semester 1 and semester 2, we have the Classroom Survey of Student Engagement, and then at the end of the year, September to October, we have the SASSI and the LESI that is administered. And just as a quick overview of where the Student Engagement Project is currently, from 2014 to 2018, we had a total of 16 public universities, 3 private universities, and 1 SADC university, which we are also very excited about. So Hanle will be taking over the capacity building workshops part.
Good afternoon, colleagues. So we also provide users workshops to all of these institutions. We provide each institution with a capacity building users workshop after the administration of a specific survey. We ask the participating institution to invite relevant people to such a workshop. The aim of the workshop is firstly to introduce an institution's data to the people involved, and also to help people to use their institution's student engagement data. However, not all workshop participants work with statistical programs on a daily basis, and therefore we had to find a way to help different groups of people to work with their data. So this is why we deemed it necessary to develop a data tool. Version 1 of the data tool was developed in 2015 by using Excel or VBA programming to create macros in Excel. The aim of the data tool was to create a practical way in which participants could start to interact with their own data. The interface should have been user-friendly and allow staff to save time in getting quick results if they have a specific question about their students. Participants should also have been able to use the data tool after the workshop if they want to engage with their data more, or if they want to use it to plan possible interventions. This is a summary of all the user workshops that we have hosted from 2015 to 2017. A total of 32 workshops were held with almost 500 participants involved. These participants were all introduced to the data tool and given the opportunity to work with their data by using the tool. This was the main page of version 1 of the data tool. The first 3 Looney Tunes circles represented 3 different sheets that we used to explain different aspects of the data tool and pivot tables specifically to them. And the 3 little men in between were icons where they could go into and do some activities to test the knowledge that we have just shared with them. Then the last circle with Bugs Bunny was for the group activity that participants did at the end of the workshop. So this is an example of how one of the sheets looked, where we explained certain skills of pivot tables to participants. You will see some training outcomes at the top middle of the screen, and this would have been covered in the discussion around the pivot table. An empty pivot table would be provided to participants, and then they would be shown how to set up the pivot table and given a chance to work with it themselves. On the left-hand side, if we've given them some time to play around, they could click on I'm ready for activity 1, and then they would go back to the main page and they could choose to enter the first activity. This is how the activity was given to participants. There was a description of what was expected of them, then a question that they had to answer, and a pivot table that they could use to obtain the answer. If they clicked on Start Activity, they would have 7 minutes to complete the activity. In each activity, we assessed what we discussed in the previous sheet explanation. After they worked with the pivot table and got an answer for the question, they could type it in the box at the top of the sheet and click on Upload My Activity. The program would then have told them if they got the answer correct. If not, they could go to the activity again and try again. At the end of the 7 minutes, we also went through the activities ourselves, and we could help participants who could maybe struggle to get the answer to get it correctly. At the end of all of the descriptions and activities, we gave participants the opportunity to work in groups and address certain questions about their data. Each group was assigned a certain theme, such as are different groups speaking to each other, and some questions in SASE relating to this theme. They had to look at students that were more or less engaged than others in the specific activities relating to the theme and what these students maybe had in common. Then they could also think of some interventions that they would plan to help these students to interact more in these activities. After a while that groups could work with the specific theme, we asked each group to present back to the rest of the workshop what it was that they had to research, what data they used to get to an answer, and what they could do with their results. After the workshop, we always asked participants to give us feedback regarding certain aspects of the workshop. The responses shown here were from participants who answered what they liked the most about the workshop. We are only showing the responses that link directly to the data tool. They mentioned that they enjoyed working with their data hands-on and that they could use the data to answer relevant questions. We also asked them how the workshop could be improved, and these are again the responses that link directly to the data tool. Participants wanted more time to engage with their data, and some were struggling to follow the explanations of the tool. There were those who mentioned that the data tool should rather be used with those who actually work with data, and then there were also those who wanted to use the pivot tables even more to drill down into their specific questions, showing the different levels of expertise that people who attended the workshops had. So some people wanted to spend more time, and the first group, it was quite difficult for them if we moved too quickly and we explained too quickly. And the second group would then rather, if they were more advanced Excel users, they would rather want to spend some more time to work with their data and not only listen to explanations. Then also another challenge that we had is that we found that participants could, in the workshop, they could work well with all the activities and they could do the group activity with help from the SASE team. But a lot of participants mentioned that afterwards, if they want to work with the data tool again, they were struggling with the technicalities of the pivot tables and they couldn't use the data tool to its full potential. And another problem that we had is that some people with older versions of Excel on their laptops or some MacBooks couldn't actually run the macros that was necessary for the functioning of the tool. So from these and other observations, we identified some challenges with version 1 of the data tool. Firstly, it was very time consuming to explain the use of the data tool and how pivot tables in Excel worked. The focus of the workshop was moving away from participants working with the institution's data and more to explaining Excel. Then there was also the challenge, as I mentioned, of having people in the workshop that do not use Excel and of having people that work with data regularly. And the first group who said that they did not want such long explanations and they actually wanted to get into working with their data. And then also, as I mentioned, the challenges of the older versions of Excel and we had to get people to use their data even after they were in the workshop. And that is why we deemed it necessary to develop a version 2 of the data tool.
Okay, so in 2018 we developed the data analytical tool version 2 and we used simplified VBA coding. So considering the challenges that we experienced from version 1 of the data tool, the aims of this second data tool had to be more user-friendly than the first data tool. It had to be quicker to explain so that participants had more time to actually work with their own student engagement data. And it had to be designed like a dashboard. So if they click, they get results immediately. So it had to be very simple. And then also visualization of results, seeing the percentage and the count of the results actually in graph form would really help the participants also. And then it must be easy to use again after the workshop again, so that the participants continue using their student engagement results with this data tool very easily. Okay, so we used the UFS SASSy Users Workshop as a pilot group for the data tool version 2, and they gave us some very interesting feedback on how to improve the tool furthermore. And then the 3 comments was the explanation of the data tool, structuring the exercises, and then handouts. So we decided then to explain the data tool much more simpler, leaving out how we designed it and the codes that are running at the back that nobody really understands anyway. And then the structured exercise, making it more structured so that the people who don't work with the student engagement data or the questions can actually see what they need to do and which items actually link to the task at hand. And that's the same with the handouts. They could easily see what items was linked to the exercise, and that really helped a lot. So this is how the data tool version 2 looks, and everything that the participant in the user workshop needs is displayed on this page. So you can see it's much simpler than data tool version 1. I think you might not be able to read there, so I'm going to read for you. On the left-hand side, you can see there's a bar graph, and at the bottom there's the counts. On the right-hand side, you can see there's a pie chart, and then that indicates the percentage of the results. So at the top, you have the question, frequency with which students ask questions or contributed to module or subject discussions in other ways. So that means if you see that blue part at the bottom, we have selected that question, and then suddenly the results is there displayed in graph form or the bar graph, and also then the pie chart. So that's very simple, very nice, but we needed an aspect to actually dig more deeper into the data. So then you can see at the bottom, we also added filters. So that means, let's say we have a question of, I want to see how many Black African students ask questions frequently in class. So that means that on the left hand side, I would have selected gender, and then I would have selected female. And at the right hand side, you can see there by race, I would have selected Black African. So those are the 2 filters that we have currently selected. And you can see that there is space on the right hand side to also select more filters up to 4. So there you can see the count currently is for Black African female students. Often asked questions in class is 123, and on the right hand side you can see that is then 24%. So that is really simplified, and I think it's quick for people to get quick results using this data tool. So a total of 69 people worked with Data Tool version 2 in 3 user workshops, and we still have to also have some user workshops until the end of this year. So the feedback that we received for this data tool is that it was very informative. One of the participants said that it's very helpful and they liked the Excel tool. It's useful data. The practical elements and working on our own institutional, they like that a lot. And then also valuable for future use, because that is actually the aim of the data tool, is to empower the people to use their own institutional data very quickly with this data tool. So one of the feedback was valuable to unpack and start understanding the profile of our students and where we need to focus key support initiatives. So just to give you a summary of the findings, time-wise, we could see that it was much quicker for participants to understand the data tool. We took much less time explaining the data tool, and this meant that participants had much more time working in the group exercises and working with their own data. It was user-friendly. I think the new data tool looks much less intimidating. So it's, you literally just click and you see the results. So I think that's much easier for to explain to the participants who don't work with stats or data every day. They just know they have to click here, click there, and they see the results. And then continuous usage. We have confirmed that some of the UFS participants have used the data tool again after the workshop, and we have confirmed with the other two institutions that they aim to use the data tool also in the future. So structuring the exercises also helped a lot in the data tool workshop. So that meant that the participants could easily see what was expected of them, and they could see what student engagement items was actually linked to the exercises, and that also helped with a handout that we gave them.
Okay, so the importance of these findings is through the simplified second version of the data tool, more people can easily access their data, and this enables them to better help their students. Therefore, we plan to continuously improve the data tool and to continuously evaluate the use of it in order to help our participants to better use their student engagement data. And linking this data to other data sources at the institutions could also help people to see the bigger picture regarding their students. And we also hope that staff who attend the data tool training would go back to their institutions and share the data tool and the uses of the data tool with their colleagues, and so create a data sharing culture. And lastly, we will continue to develop structured exercises that could be applicable to people in different disciplines, such as maybe student support or people from academic advising, etc. Thank you.